Yo, what's up? What's up? Here I am in East Beach. So let's share with you guys. This is what I'm gonna start doing from now on. I remember as I was doing Uber, a lot of people would ask me, "When's the last time you've been to the beach?" I'd be like, "Man, I haven't been to the beach in like 6 to 8 months." Sometimes we got blessings right in front of us and we don't even see it. We don't even. But anyway, I want to share my story of like why I ended up in Puerto Rico. Many reasons, but one of the reasons is that so I was a hospice caregiver for like 2 years, um, taking care of people dying, and yeah, it just started to get depressing, and like, just seeing so many taking care of people, developing a bond with them, and all of a sudden they die, and then I get sent to another home, take care of them for like 2 to 3 months, and then they die. And then now I know why a lot of people don't want to get into the health field, because they get depressed because they're surrounded by sick people, and then when they meet their family members, they're depressed because their loved ones are dying, and you can't have a happy face at work. You got to have like empathy, and what just made me realize is that like your surroundings really does affect your mental health. So me coming here in Puerto Rico, like just doing Uber, picking up tourists, I'm at the highest peak where people come and then they save up all their money, to take their trip to come here just to get away from work, just to take that 2 day. Sometimes people stay here for like a whole month, and they tell me how lucky I am. I always tell people it's like it's kind of like on your last day when you're on a long vacation, you're ready to go home to your bed. Imagine waking up to that last day every day. That's how it feels, So me, I try to mix it up, I try to make these videos like I was talking about this earlier. Why I'm making these videos and uploading this on my YouTube is because a lot of times, we look back in our lives and we realize that, we just work, and we never really stop and like enjoy life. So, like I said earlier, life is about creating happy moments. I was just talking to my friend earlier today, and I told him, I said, he's always a Debbie Downer. He's like, "Man, Brian, like every time something bad happens, there's always another one pending." How many of you guys had where, once you got one problem solved, they got another one pending? This is a pretty cool vibe. I should do this. Food for thoughts. Walk on the beach and share my pearls of wisdom. Yeah, and so like I remember that's how it was for me. Like I had a lot of my friends that were like that. They said, they can never be happy because there's always a problem that they gotta fix. Whether it's a family member, whether it's one of their closest friends. It's like they look at life as nothing but misery on earth. But what I was telling my friend, I said, what you need to start doing is, it's inevitable. Once you have one problem fixed, another problem is pending. You got to turn that volume down. And when you hear good news every day, you got to turn that volume up, crank that so loud so that those problems, you're still trying to manage it. It doesn't affect your mental health, And that's the reason why I'm actually going to start going to nursing school to be a psych nurse, because being an Uber driver here, after being an Uber driver here for like 4 years, it feels like, because I was talking to people that are retired. They say, "Hey, I do Uber too, because I get so bored here at the beach being retired doing nothing, so I like to do Uber and socialize, But yeah, that's the reason why I wanted to get to the nursing field, to be a psych nurse, because there's a lot of mentally ill people. I think I'm gonna enjoy that job, because as a nurse, I'm gonna be like, "Yo, I got ADHD. What's up, family? What's up?" Do it, But So anyway, that was my thing, you know. When I was in LA doing Uber, I invested in crypto and I flipped it, made a lot of money, which made me, you know, partially retire here. Then I lost it all, started going back doing Uber, you know. But I realized that, like Elon Musk said, they asked Elon Musk, they said, Elon, why don't, you know, you're a billionaire, why don't you just like retire and just chill by the beach? And then Elon said, you know, for me to do that, that's hell for me. I gotta stay busy. And you know, I actually realized that from the beginning. You know, after 3 to 4 months, people say like, oh, what is it like living here in Puerto Rico? The first 3 to 4 months, that's like the honeymoon phase, you know. After that, it dies, and then you just like, man, I used to for 8 months not working because I had money saved up. Man, I used to eat so much. I used to pig out, man, and you know, developing pre-diabetes. I always had pre-diabetes in my life, my whole life, you know. But it got worse, you know, because you know, when I had money, I was like, what's the point of working when you got all this money, you know? Then I lost it all. So sometimes being stuck in the matrix is a gift because it gives you purpose. It gives you a reason to wake up every morning because you got to pay bills, you know. So, you know, just kind of sharing my epiphany is that I'm living every day what people, they say they want to quit. They can't wait till they retire so they can experience this, you know. You know, I even see people here, like you know, I would pick up tourists and they're like, oh, like one lady, she said, oh, my husband, you know, we just retired and we always want to go to Puerto Rico and, you know, we can't even enjoy it. I was like, why is that? Because, you know, my husband's health, we went to the El Yunque rainforest and he had trouble breathing. He couldn't even get up the hill. So don't wait until you retire to take a vacation, to come to Puerto Rico, because who knows if you're healthy enough to come visit Puerto Rico, you know, or to go anywhere. You know, that's why I say, you know, don't put your happiness on pause because you convince yourself that some future event will give you this everlasting euphoria, you know, because it's short-lived. It's like a firework, you know. It's exciting, and then it just dies. So then you're like, now what, you know? So sorry that I'm rambling, but like I said, I want to be able to make these videos. This is really for me, my personal documentary, so that I can look back in 10 years from now, I'll listen to watch these videos and be like, what the hell was I saying? So anyway, but yeah, this happened a couple days ago. There was a tourist that actually went to La Perla. I don't know if you heard of La Perla, where, you know, it's like the worst area where they have a lot of drug dealers and gangs live. Everyone that lives in La Perla, that's near Old San Juan, they all own a gun. Well, this guy from New York, you can look it up, he came to see the Bad Bunny concert, okay? He went to go see the Bad Bunny concert, and he just happened to go check out the nightlife in La Perla, and these two people, they were arguing, and then, you know, he got caught in the crossfire, and then he got shot in the abdomen towards New York, you know, and now they're doing a GoFundMe, and he died, you know. I mean, you guys that are coming to Puerto Rico, it's also important to know where it's safe, you know. Anywhere you go, you have to do your research, okay? But you're gonna hear stories, you're gonna hear people tell you like, oh, it's safe. They never heard of any problems, but, you know, take care of yourself out there, you know. I think I'm gonna end this video, but just another random day. Another day sharing my pearls of wisdom as I'm doing my 10th in Puerto Rico. So that was the story, like why I moved to Puerto Rico, because I got sick and tired of the rat race. So at least I get to live in Puerto Rico where I get to live where people vacation, you know. So I like it, you know. But you get to the point where you feel like you're not progressing in life, you know. That's how I felt. I'm like, okay, it was great past 4 years, you know, just chilling by the beach, sipping on a pina colada, That's why I said, you know, like, I gotta do something, because what happens if, like, and that happened before, like, my car broke down, I couldn't work, you know, and I couldn't find a job. My background was in the oil field. There's no really oil field jobs here, so I needed to have a skill. So I got accepted into nursing school, and you know, my plan is, so this is like the strategy, this is like the hack, okay? You know, you want to live in Puerto Rico, and you're thinking like, yo, this is paradise, I can't wait, you know, I wish I could just live like you. Trust me, it does get boring sometimes. You feel like, so sometimes it's good to do things that suck, so you can be grateful for things like, you know, what, you know, that, you know, like here I am in Puerto Rico. But so like what I'm gonna do, eventually becoming like a travel nurse, okay? So like, you know, be like a psych nurse. 3 months, I'll be like working, dealing with mental patients, and I'll be like, man, after this 3-month contract is done, bam, I'm coming to Puerto Rico. And so some of you guys that are actually thinking about moving to Puerto Rico, you know, some things you might want to think about, you know, because why is it that in Puerto Rico there's actually 2.5 million Puerto Ricans on the island, and in just New York alone is 3.5 million Puerto Ricans, okay? So that just shows you more Puerto Ricans on the mainland than Puerto Ricans here in their own island. It's because of the opportunities, you know. Nurses here, I was talking, one lady, she said she gets paid $13 an hour. Another nurse gets paid $17 an hour. An attorney, she said she gets paid $15 an hour. You know, and you know, I asked her, like, why don't you move to the mainland so you can make more money? And a lot of people, they can't leave because they want to be close to their family, or because the fear of the unknown. Some people left to make more money, and they realize it's actually costing more money because the rent is higher, everything's more expensive. So they say they'd rather just come back and live in Puerto Rico where they could live for free. A lot of the locals, they inherited their homes, you know, their grandparents, ancestors own multiple homes here, so they don't have to pay for rent, you know. So my thing is, you do you. This is my pearls of wisdom. I want to be able to have the autonomy, and that was my thing. How can I have the autonomy to where I could live in Puerto Rico and do what I want? As an Uber driver, you have autonomy and doing contract work. So if you have some type of contract skill, whether you're a welder, you work in oil field, or you have some type of travel job where you could work 2 to 3 months at a time and then come back. So, you know, that's kind of like my long-term plan. You know, my long-term plan is, you know, once I'm able to like stack up enough bread, you know, what you might want to do is you might want to get like a multiplex home. This is what I was thinking about, getting a multiplex home here, living in one, rent out the others, and then make passive income. And then once you know, make money off of that, then you go ahead and expand and get more property, you know. So like, that's my goal. Like in 10 years from now, I have different multiple rental properties. So, you know, eventually, you know, I'll get tired of doing nursing, and if I want to take a 1 year, 2 year break, I can do that and just live simple here, you know. But hey, if I need the money, I can always do the contract job. So that's the beautiful thing about it, you know. I was actually I was actually thinking about doing nursing earlier, but when I was a caregiver, I would see all these nurses that would come, and I would ask, I was like, well, why? I would ask, well, why exactly, you know, I would ask, like, well, why are you still working if, you know, if you don't like your job? Because some of them don't like it. And then they would tell me, it's like, because, you know, they have so much freedom, you know. They have like half of the year off, you know. They work, you know, 2 days a week, 3 days a week. And so they're willing to pay the price. Some people like it, you know. Sorry, I'm just rambling. But yeah, I think I'm gonna end this video here. But this is Isla Verde, getting my 10,000 steps here. So if you guys actually want to come check out Puerto Rico, I recommend check out Isla Verde. This is where a lot of people like to hang out, chill by the beach. You want to know another thing too? Another thing too is when I remember when I went to Costa Rica, I went to Colombia, and every time we would land in a different country, nobody would clap. But whenever we would land in Puerto Rico, people would clap. There's something about Puerto Rico that people go crazy about. So anyway, that's enough for this video. Peace out.